Distinguished members, good morning to all of you. Today, let me start with opening and theme remarks on import and export of goods and services. This topic is very, very important for different regions. That whenever we talk about export, be it export of goods or services, taxes should not be exported. And we got two concepts, physical export of goods or services and deemed export concept. And what will happen to supply made to SEZ unit or SEZ developers? What would be fate of MEIS, Merchandise Export India Scheme, SEIS, credit script lying with you, which is presently being used for payment of custom duty, excise duty and service tax? What would be fate of advanced license, EPCG license, DFIA, which is being used for exemption from custom duty, which includes basic custom duty, countervailing duty, custom cess and SAT? What would be the fate post GST regime? Very recently it is being stated that midterm foreign trade policy going to be revised. Just 2 days back, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman has commented upon that foreign trade policy going to be revised in lieu of GST. So I will touch base all these important points. Whenever we talk about import or export of goods or services, under GST, we have to understand whether this transaction is an intrastate or interstate. Am I right? The first question comes to our mind. Section 5 is a chargeable section under IGST Act. But Section 7 talks about what all transaction going to be interstate supply of goods or services. And Section 8 talks about what all transaction going to be intrastate supply of goods or services. Section 7 talks about these many following transaction going to be interstate supply of goods or services. The first transaction, supply of goods or services, when location of supplier and place of supply is in different state, different union territories, and such union territories are not having state legislature. Or between state and union territories without state legislature going to be interstate supply of goods or supply of services. This part is clear to all of you, right? See, yes or no? Go along with me so that when you say yes, I feel like yes, you're with me, right? Second transaction, import. Import of goods into the territory of India till they crosses custom frontier of India. I'm again rehearsing this line. Import of goods into the territory of India till they crosses custom frontier of India. And what is import of goods? Import of goods means bringing goods from a place outside India to India. That is the definition. The first question comes, what would be the fate of high sea sale? High sea sale, you know today, no VAT or CST applicable, right? No CST applicable. But when I say import of goods into the territory of India till they crosses custom frontier of India shall be deemed as interstate trade or commerce. Meaning thereby IGST applicable in terms of Article 269A, then this debate is on what happened for high CCL transaction. Whether GST going to be applicable. If GST applicable, then IGST in all probability, because it is an interstate trade or commerce. Second question comes, what happens if transaction is happening within 12 nautical miles in the territorial water? Is the purview of central levy, only central government can levy taxes, but Section 9 talks about of IGST Act 2017, when location of supplier and place of supply is in territorial water, it shall be deemed within the coastal state or union territories where baseline, nearby baseline custom frontier is located. Point. Now the point comes, export of goods or services is again going to be interstate supply of goods or services. And one important transaction, any supplies of goods or services or both. I do not know why they have kept the term both. But wherever you go, you see goods or services, or why both required when the Schedule 2 is being given, and Schedule 2 provides certainty and clarity. A transaction can either be supply of goods or supply of services, but still both are there. It says any supplies of goods or services or both to SEZ unit or developer, it would be interstate supply of goods or services. Meaning thereby, I'm in Delhi, registered in Delhi as a chartered accountant, and I'm supplying services to SEZ unit within the state of Delhi. This transaction would be called interstate. What is applicable? IGST. Now next question will come to your mind. Okay, they have covered SEZ unit or developer. What would be fate of transaction between EOU? Right? I will touch base that part little later. Just pause yourself. So these are the transactions covered in interstate supply of goods or services. What about intrastate supply of goods or services under Section 8? Simple. When location of supplier and place of supply is in same state or in same union territory having no state legislature, that transaction would be called intrastate supply of goods or services. And last and foremost, default. If any supply of goods or services not covered elsewhere in the GST Act, that would be termed by default as interstate supply of goods or services. Am I clear to this aspect? Having said that, now next question will come on import component. I said two parameters are very important: location of supplier and place of supply. So location of supplier of services and location of recipient of service is being defined, and they have said location of supplier of service or location of recipient of service would be in this order. Place where you have taken the registration, or fixed establishment. Fixed establishment is characterized by sufficient degree of permanence of human or technical resources. Third, establishment most directly concerned. I'm going to do some case study today and will explain you the relevance of these kind of definition. And last is usual place of residence. So we have to check what is the location of supplier, but only the place of registration cannot be considered as a location of supplier if it is being supplied from fixed establishment or establishment most directly concerned. So we have to look into those components as well. Now, Section 10 talks about place of supply for goods other than import of goods or export of goods. Place of supply for domestic transaction is being provided. Section 11 talks about what is place of supply for import and export of goods. For import of goods, place of supply would be location of importer. Please pay attention. Place of supply for import of goods would be location of. And how do you get the relevance? Let's say you are importing goods through Nhava Sheva, but you are registered in Gurgaon. You are registered in. Then place of supply will always be location of importer. Am I clear? So you have to pay IGST from your Gurgaon registration GST number. IGST. When I'm saying IGST you have to pay, next question will come. What all duty will continue post GST regime on import of goods? Import of goods today, what is applicable? Basic custom duty, countervailing duty, which is equivalent of excise duty applicable on like goods manufactured in India, custom cess, which is education cess and secondary higher education cess, and SAD in lieu of sale tax. Now next question will come, what all custom duty will continue post GST regime? CVD, no doubt going to be subsumed in GST, right? SAD, no doubt going to be subsumed in. What about custom cess, which is education cess and secondary higher education cess? It is subsumed for excise duty purpose on 1st March 2015 and subsumed for service tax purpose on 1st June 2015, but still continuing on import of goods. What would be fate of this custom cess? It is being stated by GST Council that all surcharge and cess as levied by central government going to be subsumed in GST. To my considered view, again custom cess will subsume in GST. So what happened post GST? If you're importing goods, you have to pay what? Basic custom duty and IGST. No doubt. Next question will come. There are three players in GDP: manufacturer, service provider and trader. If you're a manufacturer and you're importing goods today, the next question comes, what all credit is available to you? You're paying basic custom duty, you're paying CVD, you're paying custom cess and you're paying SAD. Please tell me whether credit of BCD available. Big no, right? CVD credit is available. Custom cess, SAD. So we are getting credit of CVD and SAD if we are manufacturer of goods. If you're a service provider and you're importing raw material, inputs or capital goods, please tell me, are you allowed to take credit of basic custom duty? Why slow? No, big no, right? CVD, custom cess, SAD, no credit available. So those who are listening first time, listen very carefully. No credit of SAD available to a service provider. What happened to a trader of goods who is importing goods from China and he's only trading into imported goods? Can he take credit of basic custom duty? CVD? Custom cess? What about SAD? SAD refund is permissible only specified goods in terms of notification number 102/2007. Not for all. Only specified goods in terms of notification number 102/2007. Now let's do the comparison in GST regime. Let's do the comparison. For manufacturer, he will pay basic custom duty and IGST, am I right? With a credit of BCD available, credit of IGST, par situation, CVD and SAD subsumed, becomes IGST, credit would be par situation. Except rate may play important role. Maybe 12.5% standard excise duty rate, which is now CVD, and 5% approximately. It is 4%, but turned out to be 4.944% in a calculation. I hope you all know it, right? It is 4%, but when you do the calculation, it turned out to be rupees 4.944 if assessable value is 100 rupees. So 12.5 and 4.944 equivalent to 5%, approximately 17.5% rate is going to play an important role, under which slab your goods are going to fall. But IGST credit would be available. Let's do comparison with the trader who is doing only trading of imported goods today. He is allowed only refund to the extent of SAD component if it is falling under specified goods in terms of notification number 102/2007. What happened post GST? He will pay basic custom duty and he will pay whether he will get credit of IGST component. Say louder. Now he is being allowed IGST credit, which is subsuming CVD and SAD. Is it not against Make in India? Please tell me, it is not against Make in India. Today he is being given benefit of only 5%, but tomorrow he would be given benefit of even CVD component at par with the manufacturer, which he is not supposed to get. It is going contrary to Make in India. Why somebody will manufacture in India if he can import from China and at par situation pay IGST with the manufacturer and take credit? Are you all getting my point? So this is the one big point, how to sustain Make in India when we talk about, when Honorable Prime Minister is talking about Make in India. For trader, he's paying either excise duty and VAT. If he's a VAT dealer, he does not take credit of excise duty component, but excise duty embedded in the price, right? So he's paying both the component, right? Why excise duty credit is not available? Reason is very simple. He's not excise registered. Now I'm only making comparison. Why we levy basic custom duty on import? As per WTO concept, we should not levy basic custom duty and we should not increase also. Otherwise, WTO will start all cases against you. We have to see survival of domestic manufacture in India. If something is cheaper in China and you're importing and selling in India, as against manufacture in India, how you are going to create employment generation? Infrastructure. Why these custom duty, safeguard duty, anti-dumping duties are being levied? Then you are just questioning that aspect as well. Try to understand. I'm saying that of course CVD and SAD today in domestic transaction excise duty and VAT agreed, but why is not being allowed CVD credit? Because we want to help manufacturer to import raw material and use for manufacturing of FG. So we have to find out some solution to it. Check and balances. We cannot expose large manufacture pan-India. Otherwise, we will start making comparison. Just work out the cost for importing and trading or manufacturing. This is the point I wanted to raise. I hope you all agree with me, right? Yes,
sir. But in case of trader, if they are registered with the excise department, then they can pass on.
Of course, they can do that. No denial. See, try to understand. They are comparing two transactions. Domestic transaction versus import. And why import we levy basic custom duty, anti-dumping duty, safeguard duty, just to make sure that domestic manufacturers are supported, protected. That is the point I'm raising. I hope you are getting my point, right? Come to the next point. Service provider. Today he can take credit of only CVD component. He's not allowed to take credit of SAD component because it is in lieu of sell tax. Post GST, CVD and SAD subsume in IGST, and of which credit would be service provider getting benefited to the extent of SAD component. Whether he is going to pass on this benefit to the consumer, first part, and very recently Honorable Finance Minister has said there would be marginal increase in price for the service sector, for specified services. Because they are thinking GST standard rate going to increase from 15% to 18%. So what happened, this service tax, this SAD component of which credit is not available, this would be available in IGST. To that extent, they are benefited. So I'm only saying that these are the all numbers, financial numbers going to create impact analysis, and that may vary from one business situation to another business situation. I hope you all are getting it right. So this is what on input tax credit. Now coming to the next component, what is zero rated? Zero rated is being defined under section 16 of IGST Act. And zero rated means on output there is no duty applicable. It's a zero rated. So they're saying if you are exporting goods or services or both, it's a zero rated. Or supplies made to SEZ, the unit or developer, it's a zero rated. Zero rated means when you export goods, you should not export taxes. Now, two-way it is possible. Two-way it is possible. Now, first question will come, I'm exporter of goods. I'm purchasing or importing raw material today. And then using the raw material for manufacturing of FG, and FG is exported. So there is inward and there is outward. Outward, they are talking about zero rated. They are talking about zero rated. So they are saying that you should not pay taxes. Without payment of taxes, you can export either under bond, if you are a merchant exporter, or LUT if you are a manufacturer exporter, without payment of taxes. But what happened? Can I procure raw material without payment of taxes, which I do normally today under Rule 19 of Central Excise Rule 2002? Can I do that? Answer is big no. You must be knowing this concept, ARE1 concept, ARE2 and ARE3. I have to pay GST. If it is intrastate, I will pay CGST and SGST. And if it is interstate procurement, I will pay IGST, of which credit would be available to Bimal Jain. What he will do with the credit, because he is exporting. Then provision says, I can go for refund in terms of section 54 of CGST Act 2017 of unutilized input tax credit. I can go for refund. Well said, no problem. This part is clear. But another provision also says that Bimal Jain can also pay taxes on outward supply, which is nothing but a rebate. Rule 18 of Central Excise Rule 2002. How many of you have dealt with rebate? Then you must be knowing rebate concept, right? Rebate is what I pay taxes on my output and claim refund of rebate. And why rebate is beneficial? Because you get refund of value addition. And if you are struggling with a more credit accumulation, you should opt for rebate rather than refund. That is what the mechanism all about. So this is for goods I'm referring to. Coming to services. Now when we talk about services, we got again export and import. But when I say export and import, let me do import of services first, so that at least we are clear of. Today, import of services, any tax applicable? Please tell me, any tax applicable? What is applicable? Service tax, reverse charge applicable, right? So what happened in GST regime? On import of services, IGST applicable, of which credit would be available. This part is clear? With clarity? Louder, yes. One tax planning I'm giving to all of you, and good tax planning. Those who are not getting credit for any region whatsoever, those who are not getting credit for any region whatsoever, transition time period. Section 21 of IGST Act 2017 talks about import of services on or after appointed date. On or after? Appointed date could be 1st July or 1st, but on or before 15 September 2017. If such transaction is initiated before the appointed date, then provision says, section 21 says, if you have paid the taxes, you have paid the taxes either in full or in part, then to that extent you need not require to pay GST under GST Act. So see the advantage. If you have paid the 15% today as against 18% proposed, and in case credit is not available, then this is the high time you should work out, look into your business model. Hope you all are getting it, right? Hope you all are getting it. Now, when service is being initiated, they say service is deemed to be initiated only when invoice is raised or payment is being received or made on or before appointed date. Payment in full or part. Invoice is raised or payment received or made full or part on or before 1st July 2017, such transaction would be considered that these are initiated before 1st July, but executed only after 1st July 2017. Then you can look into those transactions and can see the advantage wherever credit is not available. Okay. Second transaction, import of services. Import of services for consideration or without consideration. Please tell me, import of services without consideration, GST applicable? GST applicable in terms of entry 4, schedule 1. It talks about when imported by taxable person from related persons or any other establishment outside India when made in the course of furtherance of business. If it is personal, without consideration, GST. But let's say I'm your NRI relative outside India, and you're importing some services from me, and you're paying me $1. Paying me $1. Tell me, GST applicable? Import of services for a consideration which is $1, as against $10,000 I would have charged, but being you are my relative, I'm taking only, वो बोलते नहीं है शुभ टीका लगाने वाला. टीका लगाने वाला, you have paid $1. But tell me, GST applicable? Whether or not made in the course of furtherance of business. Applicable. And now question comes, valuation. Advice देना ही नहीं बिमल जैन को. Advice बिमल जैन को. But look at how the individual who is personally importing services, how he would be knowing all these provisions. By mistake, he has given gift on Rakhi. Rakhi आई और हमने भेज दिए sister के account पे, right? और sister learned professional है वहाँ पे, या brother learned है, इसको import of service मान लिया जाएगा. Look at the irony of provision I'm referring to. Coming to now export of services. Now, how the export of services would be dealt in GST regime. Export of services, when I refer to, I'm finding that we are still continuing with the past legacy. What is export of services? The way it is being defined, I'm explaining to all of you. But before I define in GST, look at what is the provision in existing service tax provision. Rule 6 says Service Tax Rule 1994. What is export? Supplier is located in India. Am I right? Recipient is located outside. And place of provision of services should be outside. Money should have been received in convertible. And supplier and recipient are not merely establishment of distinct person. Am I right? Am I right? Do we find any different provision in GST? Section 2, subsection 5, IGST Act 2017. Replica of the provision. Replica, nothing else. They are saying supplier located in India, recipient is located outside India, place of supply outside India, money is being received in convertible, foreign exchange, and supplier and recipient are not merely establishment of distinct person, similar like existing provision. And what is import of services? And I will tell you, I will do 3 case study with all of you. What is import of services? Provider, supplier located outside India, and recipient is in, and place of supply is in. So again, you have to identify location of supplier and place of supply. And place of supply for services, for import and export, you have to go back to section 13 of IGST Act 2017. And section 13 is nothing but, more or less, place of provision of services rule 2012. 2012. Let's do one transaction and try to understand. I'm head office in Delhi. I'm exporting services to my branch in Korea. And branch is also paying me in convertible foreign exchange. Please tell me whether this would be export of service? Why few voices? Export or not? It is not export. Had it been reverse case, I'm importing services from Korea branch to HO in Delhi. Today service tax applicable, right? And tomorrow GST applicable, IGST applicable. Same provision. Now let me do case study so that you can understand in a better way. The first part. See, let's say I'm head office. Just pay attention here. My Korea branch has got contract from a client located in Korea. Just look at 3 case study. My branch in Korea has got contract from a client in Korea for a particular services. Now branch has to deliver the services to client located outside India. Both are in Korea. But branch is not competent enough. They are not having requisite manpower, technical resources. They come back to Bimal Jain, HO in Delhi, and request Mr. Jain, being HO, why can't you provide services directly to the client located in Korea? I provided the service. I deputed my staff to client site. They have gone and they have worked. Privity of contract was between branch and client, HO and branch. Privity of contract. I was not having direct contract with the client. Now in this case, I'm giving services on behalf of my branch in Korea to the client directly. Tell me whether it would be export of services or not. Because in this transaction, I'm going to raise invoice to my branch, and my branch is going to raise the invoice on client. Am I right? Am I right? Tell me it is export of services or not. See, those who are saying no, on those who wanted to say yes, and those who are not saying anything. They only want to have opinion free of cost. It is really a learning curve now. Learning curve now. See, again we have to go back to location of supplier of service and location of recipient of service, right? And location of recipient of service, again provision wise, place of registration, right? Place of registration for foreign client will always be outside India. Or fixed establishment, or establishment most directly concerned. So really I have to go back to into factual position. and such factual position may help or create problem depending on how the contract is being configured. So I've given food for thought. I'm not concluding, I'm giving just food for thought. Second transaction. Microsoft case. And you must be knowing Microsoft case. Microsoft Singapore has supplied laptop and computer and hard disk to a customer in India. With warranty. With warranty. They have to give warranty services to customer in India. So instead of providing services from Singapore, they contacted Microsoft India and requested Microsoft India to deliver the service on their behalf, which is called on-warranty services. So I'm giving services to customer in India, but raising invoice to Microsoft Singapore, getting paid in convertible foreign exchange. Identifying customers for Hyundai Korea, and Hyundai Korea is making payment to Bimal Jain. Tell me whether service tax applicable today. From 1st October 2014. 1st October 2000, what would be post-GST regime? Still, I have told you, Section 13 is more or less replica of place of provision of Services Rule 2012, and location of supplier of service continue to be place of supply. Service tax, what Hyundai will do with the service tax? Right? First component. Let's reverse this one. Reverse this one. Maruti asking Bimal Jain in Korea to find out customer base in Korea. Maruti India asking Bimal Jain in Korea to find out customer base in Korea. Right? I'm finding out customer base in Korea, and they are also paying me 10% of FOB price. Whether service tax applicable today? No reverse charge. Provider located outside India, recipient is in India, no reverse charge. No reverse charge because location of supplier is in non-taxable territory. Continue to be same provision in GST. Continue to be same provision in GST. Now look at from the concept of when Bimal Jain is in India, commission agent, exporting services to foreign supplier, he's being paid in convertible foreign exchange. So he's earning convertible foreign exchange for country India, but being levied with the service tax, way forward GST. Reverse charge, my convertible foreign exchange is going out of the country, no service tax applicable and no GST applicable. I'm only questioning myself. Prior to 1st October 2014, how come it was export, and after 1st October 2014, how come it is not export? And why our taxation policy should not be synced with the foreign exchange earned for the country India? Am I clear? The third component, coming to the last and conclusion part of my theme presentation. I really wanted to give more, and there are lot many things which I thought of, passing on to all of you. Import and export going to play a very, very important role. There's the one concept of deemed export. Deemed export, when goods are not leaving the country and payment are being made in INR or foreign exchange, depending on the contract. Whether any benefit of refund would be permissible. Provision-wise, it says on deemed export, but for specified transaction as notified by central government and state government on recommendation of GST. So they have not yet specified. Section 147 of CGST Act 2017 talks about deemed export, but they have not specified what all transaction going to fall in deemed export. Deemed export, otherwise known from foreign trade policy, either for terminal excise duty, right? Refund of terminal excise duty, or basically advanced license or DPV we are referring to. What all transaction going to fall in deemed export, we have to wait and watch. Coming to the next component, what will happen to advanced license EPCG license. Now, today you are using these licenses for whole exemption of custom duty. But post GST, these would be restricted only to the extent of basic custom duty. Meaning thereby we have to pay IGST, of which we have to go for working capital for export community. Working capital for export community. What happened for my MEIS and SEIS credit script? Today these are being used for claiming exemption of basic custom duty, CVD, and service tax. Am I clear to all of you? What happened post GST? These are restricted only to the extent of basic custom duty. We have to pay taxes. So those who are having MEIS, SEIS script, highly advisable, because these are transferable. If these can be used before GST comes in, or it can be sold before GST comes in, then you will have better price. After GST, it would be restricted only to the extent of basic custom duty. Coming to the last conclusion part of my presentation, theme presentation and open remarks, I have not touched base transition provision refund pertaining. If refund is being filed under earlier law, prior to appointed date or after appointed date, how those refund would be handled. Provision says refund would be given in cash. If any refund is being rejected, then even you can't file appeal and no corresponding ITC credit would be available, which is against natural justice. So we have to really see how smooth transition can happen for our business, and with that process we can change and transform for smooth transition to GST. Having said that, I will not take much time. So I given food for thought, ignited your mind, created so many, line item for import and export. Am I right? So I'm thankful to each one of you for giving me such a patient listening in the opening remarks. Thank you. Thank you very much to all of you.